Good evening and welcome to the April 17th meeting of Troy City Council. I'm Marty Baker, President of Council. Please silence your electronic devices for the duration of the meeting. We'll begin with the invocation by Mr. Doug Tremblay, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we take this moment to reflect upon and thank you for all the blessings that you have bestowed upon us. Please continue to watch over us, and we ask you to especially watch over the first responders and the armed forces personnel as they risk their lives in order to protect us. We also ask that you guide us in wisdom and courage to best serve the citizens of this city. In your name we pray, amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mrs. Snee. Here. Mr. Phillips.
Here.
Mrs. Oda.
Here.
Mr. Heath.
Here.
Mr. Terwilliger.
Here.
Mr. Kendall.
Here.
Mr. Tremblay.
here.
Mr. Swayzer.
Here.
Mr. Twiss.
Move to excuse Mr. Twist.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Schweizer and seconded by Mrs. Snee to excuse Mr. Twiss. Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mr. Phillips.
Yes.
Mrs. Oda.
Yes.
Mr. Heath.
Yes.
Mr. Terwilliger.
Yes.
Mr. Kendall.
Yes.
Mr. Tremblay.
Yes.
Mr. Swayzer.
Yes.
Mrs. Snee. Yes. Mr. Twiss is excused.
Mrs. Knight, please read a summary of the minutes of the April 3rd meeting of Troy City Council.
Minutes of Council, April 3, 2017. There was a public hearing on resolution number R24, 2017, an agricultural district application. Law and Ordinance Committee reports. Law and Ordinance Committee recommended regarding ordinance number 08, 2017, that council adopt the ordinance to establish a citywide ban on the cultivators and processors of medical marijuana. Regarding 09, 2017, committee recommends the ordinance be amended to establish a citywide ban on dispensaries of medical marijuana. Streets and Sidewalks Committee reported that as a status report, committee reaffirms its recommendation that the complete streets policy be approved. Committee recommended that the legislation be prepared to provide for the resolution of necessity regarding the sidewalk replacement program. Utilities Committee recommended legislation be prepared to approve a grant for a pipeline easement to Vectren Energy Delivery. Resolution number R21, 2017, approved the complete streets policy as part of the comprehensive plan, was given third reading and discussed. Resolution R24, 2017, approving application of EMAT, EMARI, EMARC, Ohio Limited Family Part 2 retained land in agricultural district, first reading. Resolution number R25, 2017, resolution of necessity for phase 10 of the sidewalk program, first reading and adopted. Ordinance number 08, 2017, related to a city-wide ban on the cultivators and processors of medical marijuana, was given third reading and adopted. Ordinance number 09, 2017, related to retail dispensaries of medical marijuana, was given third reading and was amended to prohibit the retail dispensaries. Ordinance number 010, 2017, granting pipeline easement to Vectren Energy of Ohio, was given first reading and adopted. Following various comments, council did adjourn at 7:46 p.m.
Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes?
Move that we accept the minutes as read.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Mr. Kendall and seconded by Mr. Heath to approve the minutes. Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mrs. Oda?
Yes.
Mr. Heath?
Yes.
Mr. Terwilliger?
Yes.
Mr. Kendall?
Yes.
Mr. Tremblay?
Yes.
Mr. Swayzer?
Yes.
Mrs. Snee? Yes. Mr. Phillips?
Yes.
Minutes are approved.
We will begin the committee reports tonight with the Finance Committee and Chairman, Mr. Tom Kendall.
Thank you, Madam President. Do have one report this evening, and the subject matter is ODOT cooperative purchasing for road salt. On April 10th, committee members Swayzer and Tremblay met to consider authorizing the city to participate in the bid of the Ohio Department of Transportation, ODOT, for road salt. To be included, specific legislation must be enacted and presented to ODOT no later than May 10th so that ODOT is aware of the quantities to be included in their bid. It is a recommendation of this committee that legislation be prepared authorizing the City of Troy to participate in the ODOT Cooperative Purchasing Program for the purchase of road salt, based on the data established by ODOT to be included in the ODOT program. We support this item as emergency legislation, and this is respectfully submitted by Mr. Swayzer, Mr. Tremblay, and myself as Chair of the Finance Committee.
Are there any questions from council? Thank you, Mr. Kendall.
Thank you.
Chairman John Schweizer has the next report from the Law and Ordinance Committee.
Yes, Madam President, we have one. Committee members Phillips and Schweizer met on April 10th to consider the application of EMATT, EMARI, EMARCC, or ARC, Ohio Limited Family Partnership by Evelyn Schaefer, general partner, to continue to have 83.18 acres of ground located at 2373 North Washington Road be in the agricultural district. This is the third such application for this parcel of land. The application must be refiled every 5 years. The required public hearing was held April 3rd with only comments made by the applicant. It is the recommendation to this committee that council approve resolution number R24, 2017, the application of EMATT, EMARI, EMARC, Ohio Limited Family Partnership by Evelyn Schaefer, general partner, for parcel number D08-104384, a total of 83.18 acres to remain in the agricultural district. And this is respectfully submitted by Mr. Phillips, Mrs. Snee, and myself as chair.
Are there any questions or comments from council? Thank you, Mr. Schweizer. The Recreation and Parks Committee has the next report. Chairman Brock Heath.
Yes, Madam President, thank you. We just have one item. On April 10th, this committee met to consider recommending an agreement for the 2017 Troy Strawberry Festival that will include the location to follow that established in 2014. As in prior years, in the interest of preserving public safety and crowd management, some activities should be limited during the actual festival events and for an hour before and after the events of the day. It is a recommendation of this committee the legislation be prepared authorizing the Director of Public Service and Safety to enter into an agreement regarding the Troy Strawberry Festival to be held within the levee area and the downtown, Market Street from Water Street to Staunton Road closed for safety, and that the ball field parking lot during 2017, that the Hobart Arena Stadium parking areas be used for the Friday night events, and to include the limitation of some activities during and for the hour before and after each day's events activities. This is respectfully submitted by Mrs. Oda, Mr. Tremblay, and myself as chair of the committee.
Are there any questions or comments from council? Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
The Streets and Sidewalks Committee has the last report this evening. Chairman Bobby Phillips.
Thank you, ma'am. On April 10, the committee members Heath and I met to review the proposed 2017 paving program. The detailed report includes the funding for elements of the paving program and the roadway areas to be paved, which are listed at the end of the report. And it is the recommendation of this committee that legislation be prepared authorizing the Director of Public Service and Safety to advertise for bids and enter into a contract for the 2017 paving program at a cost not to exceed $820,000. And this was respectfully submitted by Mr. Heath, Mrs. Snee, and myself as chair.
Are there any comments from council? Thank you, Mr. Phillips. We now open the meeting to citizen comments. There is a 2-minute time limit at this point in the meeting, and Mr. Kerber is our timekeeper. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments related to any of the agenda items this evening? If so, please come to the microphone and state your name and address before addressing council.
Buster Connor, 1210 South Clay Street, Troy, Ohio. the purchase of salt, it wasn't really a bad winter, so we should have quite a bit of salt left over. And I know not too many years ago, I said something to Mr. Titherton that the people that were selling the salt then were gouging them, and I think we got $20,000 back on our salt that we was over gouged with on the price. But I just don't, unless there's something by the state that you had to buy so much a year or something to stay in the system or what, I mean, I just can't see, really, we had a very light winter. I mean, like the one man said, I used my golf club more than I did my shovel on that one advertisement. So, what is the purpose of this?
We did have a mild winter.
Yep.
There wasn't a lot of snow, but we did have several ice events that they did need to salt or brine the streets for. And I don't know that we're required to purchase any given amount from the state, but we do need to, make sure that we have enough salt for next winter because it might not be as mild as this past winter was. So, I'm sure that they have a limit on how much that they will purchase this year based on what they have in
But
stock.
are they going to just purchase or just replace and buy just enough to replace what they used on the ice and stuff? I mean, I think it should really be a very low amount that they had to buy. if they
Mrs.
do
Knight,
buy.
do you have a comment?
The legislation does reference the 600 tons, and in talking to the street foreman, he'd indicated that we would be buying that much because we do have to replenish, and then as we go through the winter, we can still use some of that purchase to add to our supply because we use it just for the road treatment, but also for the brine.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments at this point in the meeting? We'll move on then to resolutions and ask Mrs. Knight to read Resolution R21, 2017.
Resolution number R21, 2017, resolution adopting the City of Troy, Ohio Complete Streets Policy as part of the City of Troy Comprehensive Plan. This has been recommended for approval by the Troy Planning Commission. This is the fourth reading.
Are there any questions or comments from council?
Move for adoption.
I'll second.
It's been moved by Mr. Phillips and seconded by Mr. Heath to adopt the policy. Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mr. Heath,
Yes.
Mr. Terwilliger,
Yes.
Mr. Kendall,
Yes.
Mr. Tremblay,
Yes.
Mr. Swazer,
Yes.
Mrs. Snee,
Yes.
Mr. Phillips,
Yes.
Mrs. Oda.
Yes.
The resolution is adopted.
Mrs. Knight, please read Resolution R24, 2017.
Resolution number R24, 2017, resolution approving application of EMAT, Emark, Ohio, LTD Family Park to retain land in an agricultural district. Evelyn Schaefer is a general partner who filed the application. This is the third application for this piece of property to be in an ag district. The application must be refiled every 5 years. This is the second reading.
Are there any questions from council?
Move for suspension.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Phillips and seconded by Mr. Schweizer to suspend the rules. Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mr. Terwilliger,
Yes.
Mr. Kendall,
Yes.
Mr. Tremblay,
Yes.
Mr. Swazer,
Yes.
Mrs. Snee,
Yes.
Mr. Phillips,
Yes.
Mrs. Oda,
Yes.
Mr. Heath.
Yes.
Move for adoption. Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Kendall and seconded by Mr. Schweizer to adopt the resolution. Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mr. Kendall,
Yes.
Mr. Tremblay,
Yes.
Mr. Swazer,
Yes.
Mrs. Snee,
Yes.
Mr. Phillips,
Yes.
Mrs. Oda,
Yes.
Mr. Heath,
Yes.
Mr. Terwilliger.
Yes.
The resolution is adopted.
Mrs. Knight, please read Resolution R26, 2017.
Resolution number R26, 2017, resolution authorizing the Director of Public Service and Safety of the City of Troy, Ohio, to advertise for bids and enter into a contract for the 2017 paving program, cost not to exceed $820,000, all funds of which are budgeted. First reading.
Are there any questions from council?
I'll move to suspend.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Heath and seconded by Mr. Kendall to suspend the rules. Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mr. Tremblay,
Yes.
Mr. Mr. Swazer,
Yes.
Mrs. Snee,
Yes.
Mr. Phillips,
Yes.
Mrs. Oda,
Yes.
Mr. Heath,
Yes.
Mr. Terwilliger,
Yes.
Mr. Kendall.
Yes. Move for adoption. Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Kendall and seconded by Mr. Schweizer to adopt the resolution. Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mr. Swazer,
Yes.
Mrs. Snee,
Yes.
Mr. Phillips,
Yes.
Mrs. Oda,
Yes.
Mr. Heath,
Yes.
Mr. Terwilliger,
Yes.
Mr. Kendall,
Yes.
Mr. Tremblay.
Yes.
The resolution is adopted.
Mrs. Knight, please read Resolution R27, 2017.
Resolution number R27, 2017, resolution authorizing participation in the ODOT winter contract 018-18 for road salt and declaring an emergency. This will is an emergency in that the information must be provided to ODOT by May 10th that the city of Troy will be participating in the contract. First reading.
Are there any questions from council?
Move for suspension.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Phillips and seconded by Mr. Terwilliger to suspend the rules. Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mrs. Snee,
Yes.
Mr. Phillips,
Yes.
Mrs. Oda,
Yes.
Mr. Heath,
Yes.
Mr. Terwilliger,
Yes.
Mr. Kendall,
Yes.
Mr. Tremblay,
Yes.
Mr. Swazer.
Yes.
Move for adoption.
Second.
It was moved by Mr. Phillips and seconded by Mr. Schweizer to adopt the resolution. Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mr. Phillips,
Yes.
Mrs. Oda,
Yes.
Mr. Heath,
Yes.
Mr. Terwilliger,
Yes.
Mr. Kendall,
Yes.
Mr. Tremblay,
Yes.
Mr. Swazer,
Yes.
Mrs. Snee.
Yes.
The resolution is adopted.
Move on to ordinances and ask Mrs. Knight to please read ordinance 09, 2017.
Ordinance number 09, 2017, an amended ordinance enacting section 1149.14 of the zoning code of the city of Troy, Ohio, prohibiting retail dispensaries of medical marijuana within the city of Troy, Ohio. This would be the fourth reading.
Are there any questions from council?
Move for adoption.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Kendall and seconded by Mrs. Oda, right?
Sure.
To adopt the ordinance. Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mrs. Oda,
Yes.
Mr. Heath,
Yes.
Mr. Twilliger,
Yes.
Mr. Kendall,
Yes.
Mr. Tremblay,
Yes.
Mr. Swazer,
Yes.
Mrs. Snee,
Yes.
Mr. Phillips.
No.
The ordinance is adopted.
Mrs. Knight, please read ordinance 011, 2017.
Ordinance number 011, 2017, ordinance authorizing the use of public areas for the 2017 Troy Strawberry Festival and authorizing the Director of Public Service and Safety of the City of Troy, Ohio, to enter into an agreement therefore. This includes the Troy Strawberry Festival paying the city the sum of $5,000, and the agreement is basically that follows the prior 3 years, and this would be the first reading.
Are there any questions from council?
Move to suspend. Second.
It's been moved by Mrs. Oda and seconded by Mrs. Snee to suspend the rules. Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mr. Heath,
Yes.
Mr. Twilliger,
Yes.
Mr. Kendall,
Yes.
Mr. Tremblay,
Yes.
Mr. Swazer,
Yes.
Mrs. Snee,
Yes.
Mr. Phillips,
Yes.
Mrs. Oda.
Yes.
Move for adoption.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Phillips and seconded by Mrs. Snee to adopt the ordinance. Mrs. Knight, please call the roll.
Mr. Twilliger,
Yes.
Mr. Kendall,
Yes.
Mr. Tremblay,
Yes.
Mr. Swazer,
Madam President, I'd like to recuse myself as my wife is the festival manager.
Mrs. Snee,
Yes.
Mr. Phillips,
Yes.
Mrs. Oda,
Yes.
Mr. Heath.
Yes.
The ordinance is adopted.
That completes the business portion of tonight's meeting. Mrs. Knight, are there any communications or announcements?
No, they're not.
Thank you. Mr. Kerber, do you have any comments this evening?
Well, I'm not used to going first, but unfortunately, I don't have any comments. Thank you.
Thank you. To remind everybody, this Thursday evening, April 20th at 7:30 PM is the Leadership Troy Alumni Meet the Candidate Night. The event is being held at the Troy Junior High School cafeteria, and the public is invited to attend. Are there any comments from council members this evening?
Madam President,
Mr. Terwilliger.
a couple weeks down, on May 6th, the Mayor's Bike Friendly Committee, we're going to host what we're calling Super Bike Saturday. On that particular event, starting at 12:30 in the afternoon, we're going to have out at Duke Park a dedication of the mountain bike course. And at that time, we will host a 4-hour adult relay race with participants coming from not only Troy, but from what we have heard, some surrounding states. We will then go out to Miami Shores for the dedication of the Weaver Bike Station gazebo, which was a donation. Following that, at 1:30 at Treasure Island Park, with the assistance of the Miami County Public Health Department, the Troy Fire Department, and the Troy Police Department, we will host an event for children 3 through 12, at which we will try to provide activities for the kids, scouting of the, hopefully, the potential for a merit badge in their biking activities. We also will provide helmets for those children accompanied by a parent who do not have helmets. And we will also provide to all participants, anybody actually who shows up, it's a medical helmet ID. It's a small indicated button that says inside this helmet is the person's name, address, and any medical issues that they will have. That is free of charge. All of the activities are free of charge, except if you choose to be a racing participant in the Fat Tire mountain bike race. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other council members have comments this evening? Any comments from city staff this evening? Any questions or comments from anyone in the audience?
Buster Connor, 1210 South Clay Street, Troy, Ohio. I was just wondering, how many of you have sitting up there read the article that the young gentleman put in the paper that was, had to be removed from the tree out there at the school when they cut the tree down? Can I see hands of how many? 3, 4, 5, okay. You know, I mean, like the gentleman said, he, you know, promises was made that they was gonna replace trees. And this has been a good while ago, and nothing has happened. And I thought to myself, this sounds just like normal SOP here in Troy. Promise you anything to get you to shut up or do what we want, and then forget about you, and forget about our promises. This is sad. I mean, this is bad. This is supposed to be Troy Tree USA, and here we had a gentleman that had a 200-year-old tree, and they cut it down for the parking lot. You know, it just don't make sense. They could have built a plot around the tree. You know, I mean, I just don't understand some of the things that Troy does and how they get these honors as Tree USA when we just continuously do things like that, and we promise to get back with people on different issues, and you never hear from them again.
My only comment on that is, and I understand what you're saying, is that was a school issue. It was a school board issue, and we do not have any jurisdiction over the school property. That is the school board that handles that.
Yeah, but the mayor, I mean, he seems like he's really hep, and he was involved in the school system, and he's the mayor, and it looks like he could at least put some input into the school on behalf of the Tree USA.
Well, I cannot answer for him, but I'm
Right,
just,
I realize that,
you
but
know,
I'm just saying,
yeah.
I thought that at least he could have put some input into it, or his side of the views of it. I mean, it just doesn't make sense out here in Troy anymore on, and like I said, SOP, we promise you, we'll get back with you. And I've talked to a lot of people, and they never do get back with them. And I think you all realize that that's the problem up here. You never get back with people. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience have any comments? Do we have any members of Leadership Troy class here this evening? Would you like to stand and give us your name and?
Hello, I'm Erin Clark, and I work for Riverside Developmental Disability.
Thank you, welcome. Hope you're learning a lot this year in Leadership Troy. Thank you. Thank you all for attending tonight's meeting. Have a safe and peace-filled week. Meeting adjourned.